Hello and welcome to our Voices in Montessori podcast, brought to you by the Greenspring Center for Lifelong Learning. As Dr. Montessori said, an education capable of saving humanity is no small undertaking. We agree, so let's get to work. I'm Tamara Sheesley Balis, and in today's episode, I'm absolutely delighted to be talking about how we support children in their spiritual work. My guest today is Miss Rachel Shatananda, who I'm so happy. First of all, this is our first live podcast that we're videotaping. It's Rachel's first podcast ever, right?
Yes.
And she's been my friend for we just figured this out, 23 years. We've been in Montessori together. So it's so exciting. I've learned so much from Rachel over the years, and I'm so delighted to have her here. So Rachel comes to us with 30 years of experience in Montessori. She was trained back in 93 in India. She has her AMI certification. She's run her own school. She's taught at a number of different independent schools in Montessori at the Children's House level. And now she's a consultant. She's done an incredible amount of work with her students and herself on really spiritual development and what does that look like. And for us, we know that peace education was such a cornerstone of what Dr. Montessori wanted us to do and really was intentional about creating for children, and we've never needed it more. I'm absolutely delighted to have Rachel with me today, and here we go. Let's dig in. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to have you. So today, Rachel, let's start out by talking about how do you start this work, this spiritual work? For some folks, when they become a member of a Montessori community, can be the first foray into their own spiritual work or really looking in the mirror in that way. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I think for me, it was not so much something that I intended to bring to the children, but it was something for myself. And I noticed that when I did that work, that spiritual work for myself, there were shifts that I noticed. And it was quite surprising. And I felt that, hey, this is something that I can take to the children to lay that foundation of creating that space within themselves. And I think that when Dr. Montessori said, follow the child, I don't think it was only academically or socially. I really believe that it was find the spirituality that is innate in a child, in every human being, and follow that. And even though my work on myself has been deeper and more extensive, I think that, and I have seen that it's easier with the children than it is for me, because as you get older, you have so many things that you have to work on. And with children, it's they have less, so
there's less easier in the way.
Yes. And they're more open and they're more curious and they're willing. And it's incumbent on us as their guides to recognize that and provide space for that. As we provide space for, social development and all other things that we offer them, this is probably more important, maybe, because this is something that helps them regulate themselves and know how to show up in the world.
Yeah, it's a foundational element for the rest of their lives that will serve them every single day. And I really appreciate you centering spirituality as one of the key components of Montessori practice and what we need to bring to our children as guides. So a couple things in there. First of all, you really talked about creating space. I want to come back to that. But first, let's talk about, what does your spiritual practice look like? Not that everybody's needs to look the same, but for folks who are just starting out and haven't incorporated any kind of spiritual practice into their own lives, I find that it's really easy for us to get batted around by life and think that this person did this thing to me, therefore I feel this way, rather than owning our own grounding and centeredness and sense of peace and calm. And for me, that mindfulness work and that spiritual work really allows me to be responsible for how I'm showing up in every moment of the day and have the tools to navigate those challenges. Talk to me about your spiritual practice. What does that look like for you?
For me, it's just sitting down quietly. I do things like I journal, I read, but for me, the thing that works for me the best is just staying and sensing what my body is feeling, listening to what is around me, the sounds, or even if it's the silence, just noticing how I'm feeling, my body is feeling, whether it's tired or well rested, or I'm itchy or, uncomfortable, or just paying attention, just noticing. So that's been what I fall back on. And that's something that I have with me all the time. I can be waiting to check out at a store, and I can notice my posture, notice, if I'm standing funny, or if I'm, focused on, how quickly I can check out. Just observation, just noticing how I'm feeling, whether I'm stuck in traffic or I come home to cooking or dishes, whatever it may be. I think it's just that space of not reacting. One of my favorite quotes is very well known by Viktor Frankl, where he says, between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space is our power to choose. And in our choice lies our freedom and growth. So the more I create that space for myself, the more I feel that I'm not giving in to that external pressure. I don't have to be a victim of what's going on around me, because truly I can't control what's going on around me. And I think coming back to the Montessori world, we're very familiar with the term, the prepared environment. And guides take so much of time and effort and thought into preparing that external environment. But I feel that the internal environment needs to be prepared. Because if that internal environment is not prepared, then the external environment is not sustainable. And
that's where we get to burnout. That's where we get to frustration with children. All of those pieces come out of that. The difference that we can make for ourselves comes out of the work, our work.
It's like, put your own mask on first before you do anything, because I'm no good if I don't do my own work. And that work, maybe at the start, it might seem like a burden because it's something that I have to do. But once it becomes natural, it's that place of safety and familiarity and comfort that I can always return to. And it doesn't mean I have to be able to sit for like 20 minutes or 10 minutes. It just can be just a few deep breaths, 3 deep breaths. That's all it needs. And when I go back to that place, I know that place. I'm returning to that place of familiarity. And I know what it feels like. And I know that it's always there with me, regardless of where and how I'm feeling, who I'm with. I have it. I only need to go back and know that place so I can return to it. It's like a muscle. I keep like going back to it, and it gets stronger, and I can rely on it.
And it sounds like you have simplified that practice, and anyone could start it. They don't need a lot of time. They don't need a lot of resources. They could start that work in this moment. Is that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think maybe the first thing is just noticing how you're feeling. Stopping your body and noticing what we're doing. And I think there's so much of almost praise for people who can multitask. And we know now that it's not really good for us. And of course, there are times when we have to. But doing that all the time is actually detrimental to our mental and emotional health. So when we have the opportunity, when we're not in those moments of crises, that's when we practice. What does it feel like for me to be still? Just for 3 breaths.
And then 6.
Yes.
Right.
And then maybe set a timer or not set a timer. Or I'll sit down until somebody calls me.
Yeah.
So it's not something rigid. It's not a routine, because sometimes we associate the word routine with something that has to be done, has to be accomplished. It's a check off my list, but it's more a relationship that I'm developing with myself, with my breath. It's like when we make time to be with a loved one, and it's consistent and it's regular because we know the importance of it. So we don't look at it as, oh my gosh, I have to spend time with so-and-so. It's this relationship you're building. And so you want to have that relationship with yourself, with your breath, so you can understand when you're breathing shallow, when you're breathing deep and slow. And you can look at yourself and say, my breath is really shallow. I think I'm feeling calm, but why is my breath really shallow? Maybe I am nervous.
Or amped up in some other way. I think that's part of what I find is it's almost like it sneaks in, and all of a sudden I'm amped up and I haven't, I'm not aware of it. Right. And that is, I have not heard it spoken about like a relationship with a loved one. I love that. And that really, that connection to yourself and having that, cultivating that inner peace and owning that you can do that in a world that is so busy. And I say this all the time, but the truth is that corporations would love us to spend money or find another fix or numb or drink or shop or whatever to find that sense of peace, or to feel good. I should really say it's not you're finding that sense of peace, but you're to have yourself feel good, rather than looking for that deep inner peace that really soothes and regulates us.
And that's sustainable, because we can't always go out and shop or distract ourselves, whatever our distractions may be, right? But we need to develop tools and skills that are sustainable. And we can carry with us wherever we go, regardless of where we're going, or where we are. And that's something that I can pull out. That's a tool that I can pull out at any time. If I'm in a conversation and I'm feeling that maybe the person I'm in conversation with is maybe agitated or feeling, a little abrasive, I can notice and create, I have the tool of coming back to that place. So how you're feeling doesn't have to affect how I'm feeling. So if I can go to that place that I go back to all the time of how am I feeling and how can I show up for this person? So it extends and it broadens my own compassion because we're all doing the best we can.
That's right. That's right. Well, and it allows you to co-regulate their nervous system, because when somebody gets heated and we go after them, like we come and get heated, there's not a chance that it's going to de-escalate or there's going to be a sense of peace created in that moment. But when you hold the space, when you can generate that space of calm and groundedness and centeredness when someone else is heated, including a child, and we'll get there. I promise listeners, we're getting there. But you have it's like a superpower. It's a superpower for supporting those around you with having that sense of peace, that then from there they can pick what really, rather than distracting or numbing, sometimes we need to shop. It's enjoyable, but it's not out of a numbing or a trying to solve a problem, right? So an emotional problem, I should say. So I love that. So then how do you bring all of that to the classroom? I need to tell you all at home that I had the pleasure of working with Rachel in a school for several years. And her classroom was always so peaceful and so joyful. Now, I do think you have also a superpower, because her voice, if she says anything to a child, it sounds so beautiful and harmonious that you could say anything and the child just feels loved. Some of us have to work harder on that. There is magic in your voice. I will tell you, I have always loved your voice. You know that. But you have a lot of strategies that you bring into the classroom and that you use with the children to help them develop these same skills for their lifetime, right? Can you talk about that?
Yes, for sure. And also, I think as we're all wrapping up the school year and going into the new year, I think the new school year is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to start off afresh. And I think just identifying moments of one transition in our classroom, collaborating with our assistants or helpers or support staff can be really beneficial, because we're trying to identify where is it that we need to support the children and support ourselves as well. Because moments of transition are not only a struggle and a challenge for children, it's also for us. It's just that we know how to mask it better. We don't have our meltdowns because of, we have this posture that we need to maintain, right? This image that we have to maintain. But when we are not able to hold that calm, it manifests itself in different ways, different from how children do. But it does manifest in different ways. And if we're really skilled at keeping it all down, that's dangerous as well, right? And coming back from that place of suppression and, keeping it all tight is going to take longer to come back to that place of calm and balance. So I think that the first thing that is helpful is identifying where are our transition times in the day. And it's different for every classroom because, the teachers have different routines and structures. So when I know that this could potentially be I don't want to say difficult, but a less than ideal situation, that's when I already place myself there. And I'm not expecting disharmony, but I'm prepared for it.
So it comes out of your observations of the classroom.
Absolutely. And again, when can I observe? I can observe when I have done my own work and I know what it is to observe. Because being an observer has to be worked on. Because we're in this culture where we need to react. We need to be quick. And of course, there are times where we don't have time to just sit back and observe. But that also is something that we need to practice. And when I am able to observe, then I'm able to serve. Then I'm able to discern, what is it you really need? Where is it that I'm really needed? And when can I step back? And when do I need to step forward? So yes, observation, as you said, definitely observing the child, observing the environment, observing yourself, and trying to learn what is best suited for this time, right? Because I can have the best tools, but if it's not presented and offered at the right time, it's of no use, right? It's like when a child or even an adult is upset and maybe yelling and screaming, that's not the time to say, take a deep breath, calm down, it's going to be okay. You don't want to hear that.
No.
You don't want to hear that's going to further aggravate you.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So I need to give you the tools to self-regulate with guidance, maybe, and that's okay. That's what we're here for. But I can't give that to you when you don't know what it is. Because I'm already upset. I'm already frustrated. And I don't need anybody to tell me that I shouldn't be feeling the way I'm feeling. Because then I feel that you don't hear me, you don't see me. So the work is it's so deep. So the words that I use with myself or with a child are a result of so much preparation. Just as we prepare the child for reading and writing and all of this wonderful work that the children do in the classroom, right? We prepare them. You don't present them with an advanced work without them pouring and spooning.
Right.
Right.
So what do the preliminary, I haven't said that word in a while, exercises of spiritual development look like for the child?
I think it's good that, when we're at the end of the year, we can sit back and reflect on what we have done over the past year and how we might be able to not necessarily change, but just incorporate these moments of spaciousness, these moments of quiet. And there is a time and a place to be verbal about it, to give it names and labels and terms. But there are times when it's non-verbal. It's just holding a gaze, right? Looking at the child or looking at the person you're talking with and smiling and stopping. And there are no words because words will not be able to convey what is truly in my body and in my heart. So, for example, when the child is entering the classroom, and it's a literal and figurative crossing of a threshold, right? You're coming from the outside world and you're coming into this prepared environment. And you have the adult waiting at the door and greeting you. Because you don't know what has transpired, right, at home in the morning. Maybe it was chaotic, maybe it was peaceful, maybe the child is hungry, maybe you are hungry. And not needing to come up with something wonderful and encouraging and spirit-filled. Because that can be a lot of pressure on the adult as well. Because we have our families, we have our things that we need to get done before we show up for the child. So just being there and saying, and just smiling. And depending on what the culture of the school is and the classes, maybe a hug or a handshake or a rub on the back or anything. Completely nonverbal.
Connection.
I see you, you're here. I see you, I don't see you as a student. I see you as this having divinity in you. And I see your soul. And this to me is sacred because this time that you have given to me, I can't take it lightly. I think there's a difference between taking our work lightly and taking ourselves lightly. It's not a personal thing, but it's also it's intimate, right? So it's not personal in the sense that if you are not responding to me the way I'd like to be you to respond to me, it's not that I've done something to you or I've said something to you. It could be so many things, and it doesn't have anything to do with me, right? So there's that, you're taking that personal element out of it. But that connection that I'm trying to reestablish today, as you have come in the start of the new day, that's an intimate experience. And we get that as human beings, right? And especially the child, because you've been with the child for weeks and months, maybe. So you have that connection with those that are returning. But the child that is new, you're letting the child know that I see you. I see who you are. And we may not be able to name that or articulate it, but we can sense it. And that's what we're trying to build and grow. And yes, words are important. But a lot of times, words get in the way.
Yeah.
And so coming back to what can we actually do in the classroom? So at times of transition, stop and not feel that you need to fill it with words. Like, how was your day? And did you have a good breakfast? And da-da-da-da-da. That's not necessary because the child is getting that. And the adults are getting it too, because maybe we're listening to the radio, or we're listening to a podcast or something on our way, right?
Hopefully the Greenspring Center podcast. Yeah.
No?
Right.
And
so you're really saying create spaces for silence, and for, not that it's this mandated thing, although I do know that you have opportunities when you gather your group, which we'll talk about also, but creating the space where there's silence. I know for me now, when I drive in the car, I don't listen to anything. I used to fill it every second. You know, there was a radio or a podcast or something. And now I really take the time to be mindful and to do what you said, like actually pay attention to my surroundings and to think about my breathing and my hands on the steering wheel. And the experience is different because it takes away the hurriedness and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And it gives a pause. And I love that quote you shared. It is between stimulus and response, and how in that transition that's also what you're saying, is you're creating that sense of peace even in the busiest times for us in classrooms.
And another time, I think when you were asking about incorporating that and maybe naming what we're doing, I find that circle time is the perfect time. You know, when you sit down and the children are gathering one by one, that's time for you to actually acknowledge them. It doesn't have to be verbally. You know, you don't have to mention names or anything. Just looking at the child and waiting, you know, for everybody to come, and then maybe we can say, let's just take a deep breath together, and then another. And let's do that again. So you're letting them, you're giving them an opportunity to also know that they're pausing, right? And as the days progress, you start circle time with saying, let's take a deep breath in, all of us together. We may also say, you know, maybe we can place our hands on our bellies and feel how your belly rises and how it falls. Let's do it again. And you can extend that time gradually, and you'll know when you can extend that time. Start with, you know, 15 seconds. And I remember at the end of the year, we would sit for 6 minutes.
Wow.
Just sitting. There's no music, there's no instruction, there's no guidance. And the children are just sitting. And just being okay with sitting.
Right.
You know, there's no awkwardness, there's no emptiness that needs to be filled. And you're just sitting. And another thing I find that can be tempting is to go back and say and evaluate how I felt. And once that's done, I think we run the risk of having an expectation, you know, even for like your personal meditation. Oh, yesterday I had such a good meditation. I was so calm. So you're building that expectation for yourself and for the children, because when you say, oh, how did that make you feel? Oh, I was calm. I felt happy. So they have that expectation in their mind. So the next time they do it, if they don't feel that way, you feel, oh my gosh, this is not for me. I don't know how to do it. And the point is not to make it anything that it isn't. And in my personal life, there are times when I sit, I can't quieten my mind. I can't quieten my heart. And that's okay, because that's where I am. And I need to communicate that with the children. So it's not something that at the end of the day, it's like, oh, you did this work and you did that work. And I did a meditation that really centered me. And also, I'm not a fan of the word meditation, because what does it mean to a child? And even to adults, we think that if I have to meditate, I have to sit a certain way and I have to hold a certain posture. And that's not really necessary. So I found that with the children, when I say, let's pay attention to our breathing. So it's something that's in the body. It's not just this word that, what does it even mean? And children, when you say, okay, let's do some meditation, they probably feel like, oh my gosh, now I just have to do nothing. I have to just stay still. And that itself cannot be, it's counterproductive. If I'm using a word that is going to make you less calm in order to make you calm, my work is double.
Right. That's right. That's right.
So let's pay attention to our breathing.
So that's what you say is let's pay attention to our breathing. Because I know the way that this podcast actually started was we were out to lunch and you started telling me how you'd start at the beginning of the year with the students and you really had them take 15 seconds of let's pay attention to our breathing. And it wasn't even that you said to them, we're going to expand this or let's make it longer. You just observed what they could do and it extended naturally.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it's wonderful if you don't need to use a timer, but I've used an app, and then I would say to the children, let's listen for the bell, because there's a bell at the beginning and there's a bell at the end. Let's just listen for the bell. And they're just sitting. And that spaciousness is just expanding. And there are days when you would just look around the circle and they're all just sitting without moving. And it's just remarkable. It just gave me goosebumps. And then I can extend and I can extend. I remember the director would come in to talk to me for something and she would wait and wait and wait some more. And she was like, oh, I don't know how long these children are going to sit and leave. And she would ask me, how long are they sitting?
Right.
It's a long time. Like 6 minutes, like 30, 45 seconds. It's like an eternity, but they can do it. We just have to provide the space for them.
Well, and what's interesting is you're saying all this from the spiritual perspective, and medical science is actually proving now that creating that sense of calm and that the brain actually entirely lights up when the child goes to that, or an adult is in that space of silence and can really calm and go into that space of spirit, that the physical manifestations are extraordinary for the human being. And what a gift to know how to do that. And you also have a technique that I want to make sure we get to talk about, but because I know it's had a deep impact on many of your students, but your 3 deep breaths. Can we talk about 3 deep breaths? I have thought about that since our lunch. So many times I use it. So, okay. So I'll let you tell it.
I know that physiologically, I don't know the real science behind it, the different parts of the brain. So I don't want to use the wrong terms, but physiologically, when we take the time for 3 deep breaths, that's all it takes. It shifts our mood, our emotions, and we're in a different place 3 breaths higher.
Mm-hmm.
And I have found that I've used that at multiple times through the day.
Mm-hmm.
For example, before you sit down for lunch, the children have their lunch. Maybe you can say a blessing. Maybe even before the blessing, you can say, let's all take 3 deep breaths together.
Mm-hmm.
And before you get to that point when you've done the 3 deep breaths
Mm-hmm.
for a while and the children know what that is, I would just start with, let's all take a deep breath. And lunchtime is perfect because you can have them look at their food
Mm-hmm.
and inhale the smells and just absorb everything sensorially.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Our sensorial part of the classroom is not just for the classroom and for the work.
That's right.
It's for every part of our life.
Mm-hmm.
And eating is a sensorial experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And drawing that attention to it being the most beautiful sensorial experience,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can start with, let's just do like 1 breath and look at your food and the colors and think of who packed the lunch for you. And what do you look at those juicy strawberries and those crunchy pretzels and, you're just bringing them back to the body.
Mm-hmm.
What is before me right now? Not what happened, not what I'm going to do, but just in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is all what we have.
That's right.
Right?
That's
We
right.
have nothing but now.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe say a blessing or just pause.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one time. It's a beautiful time.
Mm-hmm.
And we can all eat together, begin
Mm-hmm.
together. Whether you're listening to a book or you're listening to music or you're eating in silence. That's a beautiful time because everybody's at the same place. Right? In the Montessori classroom, you have children doing so many things at so many different times.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to disrupt that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you bring them together at circle time and at lunch, those are beautiful times.
Mm-hmm.
And the more time, I should say, I take as the adult to breathe. I am giving the child permission of sorts that it's okay. It's okay to just be. And it's not a waste of time. It's the best use of our time. And this is something that we give the child. We enable the child with this tool that they can use for the rest of their lives. And they can build on it, And coming back to times in the day when we can do this, I found that bringing them back from recess or from the playground just before you enter the classroom, let's just be in our bodies. We were running and playing and jumping, and now let's just settle our bodies. How do you feel? Place both feet on the floor. Keep your hands beside your body. How do you feel? What are you wearing? How does it feel on your body? And let's just, do the 3 deep breaths. And if the children are not still familiar with the 3 deep breaths, let's do 1. Let's do it again. And 1 more time. So you're not saying 3 deep breaths, but they're doing it. And then let's go into the classroom. And then at the end of the day, at dismissal, look at each child. I've been with you for this whole day. And what an honor. The honor is mine. That at this moment, these moments in your life where your brain is developing, I get to spend it with you. You've given that to me. And yes, I may not feel this warmth and love every day, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I go into that place and I reach it and I touch it and I let you know that,
Mm-hmm.
the more you're going to develop that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to be that vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
At this age, they probably, that word is not in their vocabulary.
Right, right.
But it doesn't mean that they don't feel it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what that means.
Sure.
Because they're always filling it with something,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what it means to do nothing, to
Mm-hmm.
just be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And giving the child that. It's okay to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, unfortunately, they're being bombarded with, with their screens and with their, all these devices.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're so used to, they're so accustomed to always filling the time.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as it is so important for us to train them and to equip them for, math and language and all of these wonderful things that we need,
Mm-hmm.
this is something that I need to give you,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because there's nothing that can replace it.
That's right.
No.
And do you find that children then start to use those tools on their own?
I have heard mothers frustrated because their child has said to them, okay, mom, just take 3 deep breaths. And the mom is not in that place.
Right.
She doesn't know that. So it's even more frustrating.
Right.
To have your child tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it's frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
But it's given me an opportunity to say, no, maybe you can try this.
Right.
When you sit down to eat,
Mm-hmm.
just look at your food and let your child truly lead you.
Mm-hmm.
Because following the child is not exclusive
Mm-hmm.
to the classroom, to the
Mm-hmm.
Montessori classroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that extends outside of the classroom, in the home.
Mm-hmm.
And if we really want to be supportive parents, we're going to do what the child is doing in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's practice. It's the muscle that we talked about earlier. It's the muscle that you're coming back to and you're building.
That's right.
And you know that you have it. It's that returning to that place of knowing, I know how this feels.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a child that's frustrated or fell on the playground and hurt themselves,
Mm-hmm.
let's take 3 deep breaths together.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that shift.
Mm-hmm.
It's a physiological shift and it's an emotional shift.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what this is because I have experienced that stillness,
Mm-hmm.
that calm.
Mm-hmm.
When I've taken the 3 deep breaths at circle time, when I'm not in times of frustration and
Mm-hmm.
anger,
Mm-hmm.
when
Mm-hmm.
it's beautiful and I'm sitting, I feel I've done all this beautiful work. I've interacted with my friends. I've had snack with my friends. I've played with them.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm just here. I'm just breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's most important, the consistency.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We can't spring this on the children,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have to keep coming back to it. I have to. Like you're doing your lessons every day.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lesson
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that needs no external material.
That's right. That's
you
right.
know?
It's just about the being
Mm-hmm.
and the groundedness.
Yes.
I feel like I've been in a meditation class for the last hour. I feel so much more calm and at ease having talked to you. What a gift for the children. What a gift for the children to have that then for the rest of their
Mm-hmm.
lives. They know when they're frustrated, when they're not frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
when they're experiencing a big feeling, when they have a few minutes between activities, when when they need to find their grounding, when a friend is upset, you know, all of those pieces, to know that they have those tools and that they come from within. It's not external. It's so in alignment with what Dr. Montessori was telling us about the child's work not being about the external world, and how the child really needed to be in touch with that part of themselves. You said to me recently, and I have thought about this so much since we spoke, that you think that originally Dr. Montessori's goal was actually of a spiritual nature for children. And really, the academics were a part of that, about supporting the child's self-construction, and they need to have worthy challenges to self-construct into the person they came to the planet to be. But that her primary goal was actually the spiritual development of children. Do you want to talk about that a little? And then we'll wrap up. I know we've been going quite a while here, but I just am so enjoying this conversation with you. So,
you know, this has come to me recently. I think the more my personal spiritual practice has developed, I have seen that it's not a method of Montessori is not only a method of learning, right? It's not only a means to make a living or a job. It's a calling. It's a spiritual practice. And I feel that if Montessori doesn't change your life, then maybe you haven't really understood it. Because why did she incorporate a peace curriculum? Why is grace and courtesy important? You know, why did she say follow the child? And I think this, and I may be wrong, and I'm okay being wrong, but I feel that she really wanted us to look beneath the surface. Because the children that she first worked with, they were not, you know, children that we have the privilege of interacting with.
That's right.
Right? The children that she developed the program with were not children of means. But it doesn't matter, because what we have inside is what we need and what will support us. And so we have been given this tool, all these wonderful things that she gave us, that sometimes we just throw around these phrases, you know, but there's so much of depth. There are just so many layers beneath that, strong layers of foundation.
Well, it's part of why she was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize twice, is her work was about serving children who originally were under-resourced, and she continued that work, and also children who had learning differences. And her compassion and her understanding of the human being was just extraordinary. And really, she called on all of humanity. And we're so lucky that the folks out there who you're doing the work in public Montessori schools, in under-resourced areas, the folks who are serving high needs populations. And this applies to everyone. And she knew that, she saw that. And I feel so lucky to have someone who was so clear about purpose and integrity and what it meant to serve, that we get to stand on her shoulders.
And when you said purpose and clarity, I think what came to me was, you know, when we give a lesson to a child, right? Every aspect of the lesson is laid out, right? And we encourage order, right?
We do.
That's another Montessori word, right? Order. And I have found that when there is internal order, I can have external order.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So how do I develop that internal order?
Yes.
How do I develop that clarity?
That's right.
By not feeling rushed, by not feeling that I have to do something,
And produce.
Right? Yes. Right. And and our work is not product oriented. It's the process. Right. And when you're able to provide and nurture that space, there's no product. There's no quote unquote something that I can show for this. But the thing is, it's going to show in every aspect of your life.
That's right.
That's
right. That's right. Yeah.
This is
it shows when it's not there.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the thing is, I think more folks nowadays don't have it and are really grappling with how to find that. And I who knows why that is. It's interesting as we look at the rates of anxiety and depression and ADHD all growing in our children. We've moved to screens. We've moved away from spiritual practice. It used to be very common. I even read materials from maybe 30 years ago here at the school. It was a tremendous spiritual component, even going out to parents, and a depth of conversation that was just extraordinary. And then we've removed children from nature as well, for the most part. And we're, so there's a lot of pieces to that. And this is kind of an oasis in the middle of that. We can give them an oasis kind of regardless of all those other pieces. And yes, we want to work on those, and we are. And what a gift for their lifetime. What a gift.
And I think, there's so much of emphasis on communication, on expression. And there's a place for that, for sure, right? But I think we're neglecting the place for silence, right? Because if I cannot listen, I cannot be heard, right? It's not only that I need to be listened to, I need to listen as well. And if I don't know what it means to listen, how to something external, how can I listen to myself?
That's right. That's right.
And it's not that we're always calm and peaceful. No. There are times of frustration. There are times of anxiety and all of these things that we don't want to feel, but this is life.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And this also makes space to have those conversations, with the children and say, I'm really tired today. I'm really, maybe it was a long weekend or whatever the case may be. Maybe the classroom was chaotic. And I really feel that this is how the classroom was, and it's okay. The important thing is recognizing and acknowledging how I'm feeling, and making that okay.
And modeling it. Right. You're modeling. I think a lot about how often adults try to not tell children the truth. And so, I really I believe in telling children the truth. And when we tell them that, they say, are you mad? Or something, they think that we're mad. And we say, oh no, we're not mad because we're not supposed to be, right? Not supposed to be, quote unquote. And there are a couple of options for them. They can think, oh, I'm misreading it. I'm not very good at knowing when I don't know what mad looks like. Or this adult is lying to me. I can't trust them. And there's something wrong with being mad, right? There's all of those messages embedded in there. And so our work really is to own our feelings and to, without them being the excuse for lack of respect or connection or lack of compassion for others, right? That really, and what a beautiful gift for them to get to see that as well. Yeah.
And I often joke with the kids and I'll say, it's okay to be silent. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you're silent. They don't know what to do with that. Because what does it mean? Because we know hurt your feelings, right? My feelings are hurt. Right. That's right. But it's okay.
That's right.
We don't always have to be in conversation. You don't always have to, just say what's on your mind.
Well, it becomes almost, then it's not about connection. It's almost about entertaining. Right. So this has been just such a gift, Rachel. I just love having you here so much.
Love chatting with you.
This was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners for spending time with us today. We're so grateful for the work that you're doing. It is such important work for our world and for humanity. This is a Montessori revolution, and we're better together. We'll see you next time.